On today's episode of Yoked by Love, I get the privilege of sitting down with Emmanuel, who opens up about supporting his partner through postpartum while also grieving the loss of both of their parents. He reveals his choice to face temptation and depression head on by leaning on God and therapy to overcome them.
Am I the only one struggling with temptation? This relationship is testing my faith.
Why is communicating with my wife so difficult?
So tough.
Yeah, I'm so done in relationships.
I guess I'm just a single family.
Why can't God just send me a man?
But how do I know if God wants me to marry?
Why did I get married to have my family broken up?
I don't know if he even loves me.
Are you struggling to find answers on faith and relationships? Join me as I sit down with everyday women and men who are sharing their stories about navigating the complexities of God, sex, and relationships. I'm Ivy Julie Snowman, and this is Yoked by Love.
Emmanuel, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I decided to bring the podcast into my dining room because I just think it's a more comfortable space for people to have a conversation. So thank you for coming and sitting at my table.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So in the interest of time, we just going to dive straight into this conversation. All right. So at 10 years old, you meet the love of your life.
Yes.
And something just tells you to follow this girl. You stay friends with her through your teenage years and through your early 20s. And then somewhere in your late 20s, you decided, I need to start getting romantically involved and start looking at commitment.
Yes.
Okay, so she was living in another state and you guys were commuting in a long distance relationship, having fun, just casually doing what you do. And then a year into that, you have a pregnancy. She finds out she's pregnant.
Yes.
Was this planned pregnancy?
It definitely was not. We'd had conversations before,
Okay.
but it definitely was a surprise.
So tell me what a man goes through or what you went through emotionally and mentally when you found out she was pregnant.
I still remember where I was. I was in the studio in a session. She's like, call me ASAP. I'm like, I'm in a session. Like, I have clients right here. It's urgent. So I press play, let them listen to music, step out. And she was a little all over the place. For me, it was definitely joy, definitely excitement. Because it wasn't planned, of course, you get a little bit of, I don't like the word fear, but a little bit of fear. Like, am I ready to do this?
Right.
But the main emotion was just happiness and joy. Because we met so young and I knew her for so long, mm-hmm. I had a decent idea of who she was. Her aunt was my next door neighbor, so her family and I interacted. I think when I was 16, her sister would call me brother-in-law. So we already had that dynamic for a while. So it wasn't like this was a girl who I just met at a club and boom, she's pregnant. Like, right. This is somebody who I trusted. This I still trust, you know what I mean? But somebody who I trusted at the time. This is somebody who I cared for at the time. This is somebody who I cared for as a friend and as a partner. So her telling me that she's pregnant, I think she was more scared than anything because she has to go through a lot more changes physically. That whole process of pregnancy, I feel like it's a lot more demanding on the woman than it is on the man. You
weren't concerned that maybe she didn't want to have a child with you at that time?
Not really, because she had made jokes about having a child with me. So she had, we'd made jokes about it. She would, every once in a while FaceTime me and do the little belly bump. This was like before, you know what I mean? Months before she even. So y'all he was playing. Yeah, he was already, okay, you know what I mean? So it wasn't.
So there was no, we weren't trying to get pregnant when we found out we were pregnant.
So that's the thing. On the flip side, sometimes she would mention that because she was a teacher, she didn't want to have kids because she dealt with kids all the time. But it would be like a back and forth for her. Like, sometimes she feels this way, sometimes she feels this way, sometimes she's like, well, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to have it. So it would be a back and forth. But we had conversations. I think for me, I did my due diligence in terms of if I was to have a child with this person, is this somebody who I would want to raise my child? Value-wise. She valued family the same way that I do. So we definitely, were compatible in that sense. So, yes, it was a surprise, but I was completely happy with who I was getting ready to have a child with.
You mentioned when you found out she was pregnant, you mentioned that you told her to comfort her that you guys are not ready, but you're going to get ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just asking God, I'm like, look, God, I've never done this before. I'm trusting you with this. Just give me the wisdom to make the best decisions possible for me, my partner, and the child coming. That was the main conversation that I would have on a regular basis.
So what was the plan?
What was the plan?
Mm-hmm.
When I found out that she was pregnant, there was no plan. That's where the statement of we are not ready. And I wanted to make it clear to her. You know what I mean? Like, we're not ready. But I promise you, if we're doing this, we could get ready. Like, there's no doubt we're going to figure it out. We're going to make it happen. So
what led to how you all got here?
How we moved. So she was living in a different state.
Mm-hmm.
I was up in New York. We kind of try to figure out, okay, where would be the best place for us to get the support that we need? Because having a child, and I think this is something that we don't talk about enough, you need support. You can't do it with just the two of you. You can, but it's going to be extremely hard. So we really had to weigh it out. At the time, both of her parents were in New York. I'm in New York. My sister, who doesn't have kids, was in New York. So she was excited and she was like, whatever you guys need, I'm here. The support system was in New York. Back in Maryland, there was nobody. So if I was to go down there, there was nobody there, and it would be just on the two of us.
So it made sense for her
to come to New York.
Okay. And then you bring her to your family's home to live.
Yes.
And that's where you kind of settled and started.
This is where I talk about God's timing, because we have a multi-family home and we had a tenant at the time. The tenant let us know that she was moving in February. Mm-hmm. We were expecting our child in March. Funny enough, the tenant was like, can I move out in January and not worry about paying for February? We could have argued, but it was like the timing of it. Jackson came in February. He came early.
Right.
And the apartment was completely empty. It's a 2-bedroom, comfortable place. So the timing of it was literally down to the T.
Immediately upon the move, you find out that her mother has terminal illness. She has cancer. Mm-hmm. And that her father is becoming a convalescent of some sort due to heart failure. And that's eclipsed by the pregnancy, of course, and the birth of your son. Within a 2-year span, you guys lost her parents. And you had actually just lost your parents before you guys started dating.
That's my mom, yeah.
So you guys were dealing with a lot of grief stacked with hormonal issues going on with pregnancy and postpartum. This seems like, for most couples, a good formula for mental health chaos in the home. And what I love about your story, what I'd love for you to share today, is how you were able to offer support emotionally, spiritually, and physically to your partner during that time when she's dealing with loss of a parent, but the birth of a newborn and all that comes with that. So can we just start with first acknowledging your experience? What was it like for you, if you could sum it up in words, your feelings about that time in your life?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It happened so fast. I think you just have a goal of like, let me try to hold it together, but there's no real space to like process it or think about it. You just have to show up each and every day and try to give your best foot forward. There's no particular strategy or anything to get it done. You just have to show up every single day and give your best foot forward.
So give me some examples of what showing up every day looks like.
Showing up every day.
I mean, like, how did you handle arguments when they arose? Because I know when you're dealing with a baby crying and you're crying over something that you lost, arguments are going to come up. What was your sort of go-to strategy to just deal with arguments?
I'm going to be honest, therapy. Because there were moments where I genuinely did not know what to do. I think therapy kind of helped us slow down a little bit and really focus on why we're in the situation, how we can move forward without getting at each other. The whole process of having a child, even when it comes to postpartum, like I had heard the word on TV but you don't really know what it is until you're in it. And from a guy's perspective, it's scary. It's scary. It's almost like you're the person that you know is not there anymore, but you still have to support them and be there for them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's the scariest thing about postpartum? Are you feeling like you're losing the person?
Feeling like you're losing the person, not recognizing the person. I think I was blessed enough to still keep in mind that this is my person, but she's just going through something. So she might not be able to show up the way that I want her to show up, but let me just help her get through this process. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes you're in it and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Like, it's hard. It's hard. But speaking from perspective of somebody who I feel like we've gotten through it, and to be able to have the conversation that we have now, even her acknowledging that, hey, through postpartum, I didn't know what I was feeling. I didn't understand it. I was scared, whatever the case may be. It's a beautiful thing to now be able to have those conversations. And now I'm able to hear certain things that I wasn't able to hear at the time because she was going through it.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So
at the time, did you believe her when she told you what she was going through, or were you kind of just vexed by it?
I think in the beginning I didn't. Once again, through conversations with God, something moved me and pushed me to try to do research on it. And I feel like I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg. Postpartum is something that we need to talk more about. Women need to talk about it more. Men definitely need to talk about it more, because now that I'm in a space where I'm able to talk to other guys who had kids and everything, literally, I feel like we all went through the same thing in silence. Like, I felt like I was the only one going through it, and right. I don't have anybody to talk to, and whatever the case may be. But now that I'm talking to other guys, it's like, yeah, I definitely, I went through the same thing.
Similarly, I mean, I felt like I was going through postpartum alone, mm-hmm. and I felt like my husband was co-opting my experience when I was feeling selfish about, I should be able to have these negative emotions, mm-hmm. and you can't because you didn't have this baby, mm-hmm. and you're not breastfeeding, and you're not, doing what I'm doing as a woman, and your body isn't going through those changes. I think talking to you, I can now have a little empathy about what my husband may have gone through, mm-hmm. and not look at it as, you were mean to me during that time. You did not give me the support. Like, realizing that men also have this emotional thing that they're going through in postpartum that is talked about even less than mm-hmm. women's experience.
No, it's undermined. I feel like the energy that men get is, she's going through something, you got to deal with it and support her. Like, what you're going through doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. She's going through something that you will never understand, so you can't even speak up on what you're going through. Meanwhile, we feel like we're backed in the corner, because it's like, you have to show up even when you're on zero.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And sometimes generally don't even know what that looks like.
Do you feel postpartum for you guys' life experience has ended? Or do you feel like it's just tapering off and life is transitioning to another difficult space to manage, or a life space to manage?
Yeah, I think because postpartum can do some damage emotionally, I think now we're in a space where I can't say that the postpartum is over, because apparently from doing the research, it could last up to like 7 years. But we're in a space where we're able to have certain conversations, and even the responses that I would get from her while she was in it are a little bit different now.
Right.
So it allows for a dialogue to happen, which is something that I really cherish, because now I think, like you said, we're in a space where, it's a new space. We haven't been here before. and we're kind of exploring what that looks like.
In that new space, now that your son is almost 4, knowing that there was friction and tension in those postpartum years, do you feel like the therapy that you're going through now is working to solve issues that were unresolved during that time?
Definitely. I think part of the therapy is also, and you could probably speak on this, in becoming a mother. That process, I can only assume, will change your life around completely. Same thing, in becoming a father. The things that you have to learn, the things you have to deal with, the support that you have to give to not just her but the child. It's a process, but I feel like a lot of times both parents kind of lose themselves because of the experience. I would lean more so towards the woman because the amount of changes that the woman goes through, you know what I mean? You have to, a whole human is growing inside of you. It comes out, the chemicals in your body. It's a way bigger change. But therapy kind of helps you get back to yourself in a sense. Your identity as you, not you, the mother, you know what I mean? Get back to yourself, because once you're able to do that for yourself, then you could show up as a better mother. You could show up as a better partner. But if, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that in your partnership with therapy and going through it all, that you've gotten back to who you are, or are you kind of a new person?
I would lean more towards a new person, because I don't believe that you could go back to who you are.
Right.
You could get in a couple pieces, but we're constantly moving forward. Yeah. So who I'm becoming is a totally new person. Yes, with a couple things from the, that I've learned along the way. But it's definitely, I'm in a space where I feel like now that we're getting over the hump, it's a new day, and let's kind of embrace that and see where it goes.
Right. Yeah. Right. I definitely had that experience as a mother. I would say, admittedly, like, I didn't feel like a mother for the first 2 years of my son's life. I just felt like I had this child that I was supposed to take care of, and that I was supposed to get to a certain stage where we could actually start communicating and I could start mothering. And we're there now, right? He's 4. And it's a great, beautiful thing, and I love it. But I cannot tell you what those first 2.5 years was about. Like, and I know that is postpartum. I don't even know who that person was. That was pregnancy, postpartum Ivy. And, I don't want another child biologically. I never want to go through that again because I didn't like that person. And I don't know I could do it again and not have that person come back out and show. But I will say the importance of having a man by my side was everything for me. At the time, I felt like I didn't need him. But looking back, I see, okay, yes, we got through it. We're here. We might need a little therapy to deal with what we went through.
I encourage it.
But yeah, certainly. So let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about the loss of a parent, because your situation is stacked. Again, you thinking baby, happily ever after, girlfriend, and then this life crashes. 2 parents are lost. And you're still grieving the loss of your mother. What does it look like in terms of supporting each other?
It's tough, and I think the fact that I lost my mother first, I kind of had an idea of what she would go through. And losing a parent is probably one of the worst feelings ever. In terms of like the natural course of life. I'm sure losing a child is way worse, but in terms of the natural course of life, parents have to go first. And just that tops it in terms of pain. One thing that I could say in losing a parent is no words can fix it. So just be present. Let the person know that you're there. You're not there to fix this. You can't fix it. The parent is gone. But just be present. Just let them know that you're there. Whatever they need, right, you're there.
Right. Do you feel like it's something that gets better day by day in terms of being able to cope, or do you just, it's not a progressive?
No.
Yeah.
You lose a piece of yourself.
Mm.
Like there's you have to. It's almost like the best way that I could describe it is imagine if you lost an arm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept it and move forward with life to the best of your ability. It's tough. It's tough.
I know that a lot of women talk about it, and it's certainly my experience of what the dynamic of sex is when you're going through a mental health issue, whether it's postpartum or whether it's loss. What was your experience and how did you feel?
Trying to think back on it. If we're being honest, right? I never understood why men cheat until I was in that situation. Like, I was starting to understand why a man who maybe doesn't have a strong relationship with God can take this situation and be like, look, I'm not getting what I want. I'm going to go over here and get it. You know what I mean? Once again, I really want to emphasize the having a relationship with God because that saved me from a lot. Also going to therapy because it is frustrating to be dealing with something that you don't understand. And you're in a situation where it's like, okay, this is how I thought my relationship would be. This is not what I'm getting. I don't understand what she's going through. The easy way out is just to go and step out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You bring me back to it's hard, and I think it's important as a man to talk to people. Doing it by yourself.
Here we're talking about God, sex, and relationships on this podcast, and you and I were talking, and you expressed that the loss and the pain has actually informed your decision not to get married right now, and not to have a wedding when you do decide you want to get married. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think just in growing up, you have this idea that getting married is attached to this big wedding and celebration where you have your whole family there, your parents are there, your partner's dad is there to hand her off, your mom is there to celebrate you becoming, man of your own house. So I would say losing my mother and my partner losing both her parents, the idea of a wedding, it changes. It's not what you thought it would be.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, okay, if we have this moment, is it going to be a moment of joy and celebration? Or is it going to be a moment of the people who I want to see there are not able to be there?
So you think a wedding celebration of any sort would be a pain point for you all at this time?
I feel like it would be. I feel like it happened. I mean, time moves fast, but it still felt like it was yesterday I lost my mom. So, yeah, she would definitely, you would catch me crying the whole day. It wouldn't even, You see what I'm saying? I don't think that I'm over it to where I can have that celebration and really be present in that celebration yet. Mm-hmm. I think a part of the grieving process is to let it happen. Let the person go through that process. Because a lot of times when you're grieving, you're not present in the moment.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
you want to marry her, but you're waiting until the process is over. When do you think you'll know is the right time to sort of ask for her hand in marriage or say, let's make this official? Because you have all the makings of it being official. Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that we're there yet. I think we're in the healing phase. Mm-hmm. I think we're in the healing phase. I think we also, because we dated for only a year and then had a baby and then all this happened, we also want to spend time. I don't want to use the word dating each other, but just enjoying each other's company.
Just being
together. Just us being together.
With
And
no goals and strategies and plans.
Just being together and just connecting on a deeper level. Because for me, speaking for me, I instead of having a wedding, I'd rather go to City Hall and do a honeymoon somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I'm not pressed to have the whole family there, and that's not really. I'm more so focused on us connecting on a deeper level. Yeah.
You think people rush into marriage?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think a lot of people don't even really know what marriage is. They just, I like you, you like me, let's get married.
I don't think anybody knows what marriage is until they're married. I don't think anybody can know what marriage is until they're married. I think marriage is the biggest, what do they call that thing? The biggest twilight zone that you could throw yourself into, and you got to figure out how to make that like utopia. You know what I mean? In all of this experience, this whole last, 3 or 4 years, do you feel like you've had the support that you needed, whether it be from a partner outside? Do you really feel like someone's held you through this journey?
That's a tough question. I think in the moment, you don't feel like you have the support. Now that I'm, I'll say out of it, I can look back and say my family was there. Like, my sister coming in and helping us with the baby. My dad being, grandpa. They were there. But when you're in it, it's very hard to see the help that you actually have because you're so focused on the issues that arise. But the one thing, if I could go back, I would probably speak to people who I trust and love. I don't know. Sometimes maybe it's ego. You don't want to tell somebody that you're not having sex in your relationship. You know what I mean? You don't want to tell somebody that you're there, but you're not happy. So maybe ego, but you got to let that go. You got to let that go. Put that down. Open yourself up. Find people that you trust and have those conversations. Like some of the conversations that me and you have, and I think I've told you this before, I appreciate those conversations. I wish that we could have had those conversations at the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we didn't know each other at the time, but those are the type of conversations that I encourage and I try to push, because a lot of times I feel like men are silenced in the pregnancy postpartum stage. Meanwhile,
wait, I want to be clear. You said they are silenced or silent?
Both. They're silent, but they're also, sometimes when you do try to speak about it, it gets overshadowed with, let's say when I did try to speak to let's say female friends or whatever the case may be, to them is, she's pregnant, you're not. So you need to just, focus. Yeah, you know what I mean? Deal with it. Focus on her. And to a certain extent, that's what you do as a man. But there isn't a very big safe space for men to really express how they feel when it comes to that. Yeah.
So knowing that you're a man of faith and you really relied on your faith at this time, can you share with me how your faith has increased, what you know about God now, how he's shown up for you?
No, I think I stand even more on the statement of let go and let God. A lot of times we try to control everything, and God will humble you and sit you down and let you know, no. Okay, you want to try to do it your way? Go ahead. Do it your way. Let me show you that you're going to come back to me and talk to me about it. I think it's built my trust in God. Like I go back to saying the timing of everything. When I look back at it, it was literally like it flowed so well. But once again, when you're in it, you don't see it because you can't see ahead of time. God, he has the timeline. He sees it all. You got to trust God. Show up, do what you have to do, but trust God with it.
Thank you for tuning in to Yoked by Love. And if you enjoyed today's episode, join me online to continue the conversation on Facebook or Instagram. You can find me at Ivy Jalise or at yokedbylove.com. Remember to subscribe, follow, and share. Until next time, stay blessed.